everybody, welcome back to Will's Toy Room. Now today we're kicking off a new segment which I'm calling Toy Talk, where, like I said in my welcome video, I'll be sitting down with fellow like-minded toy individuals and we're just going to talk toys. You never know what's going to happen. I'm ill-prepared. Now today, just kicking it off, we got my good buddy Mark of... I'm sorry, what's your handle again?
Drastic Plastic.
Drastic Plastic on Instagram. Look him up. He does some good stuff. Alright, so I guess first off, what do we got right here? What are we looking at?
These are some of my G.I. Joe classified customs.
Okay.
I have been a huge fan of G.I. Joe ever since I was a little kid. My folks bought me just about the entire first 2 years worth for Christmas one year. And so, I don't know, I fell in love with them back then, and the very first time I ever used a screwdriver was to pull apart a G.I. Joe.
Get the O-rings out and stuff
Exactly.
like that. Okay.
Yeah. And so I've been kit bashing ever since then. And these are some of the ones that I've done more recently. Some of them are named. They're actually, based on a G.I. Joe, and then others are, just my own creations. So
Yeah, like, well, you got Dusty right here.
Yeah.
Got Wild Bill.
Then we got a younger version of Duke. I did Duke as a grunt.
Okay.
So that's supposed to be, him before he became a full-fledged
Duke
Joe.
as the grunt right there.
Yeah.
That's great. So what'd you do to this one specifically?
So this started out as one of the Tiger Force, what's his name? The name escapes me at the moment. Oh, Outback.
Oh, okay.
And I took the body and I just painted up the shirt basically to match the legs and swapped the head with Duke, and then a buddy of mine does some 3D printing, and that's where I got these helmets from.
Okay.
I bought a couple of them all at once, because I tend to lose them.
And that's another 3D printed one right up there.
That's another one of those. Painted them up different.
I just took that.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I did with that. It's a real basic kit bash.
Okay.
Whereas something like this is, a little more intense. I think I swapped the arms onto that guy there, and the head.
Screw in there.
Sorry.
Get familiar. Get familiar.
The head is a Marvel Legend. I couldn't even tell you where all the stuff comes from, but yeah. So a lot of fun.
And this one is.
That's supposed to be based on me.
This supposed to be based. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, right there.
So, old guy G.I. Joe. That's me. Yep. I wish I had that kind of frame.
You're only 29. What are you talking about?
Of course, right. Of course. So.
Well, I guess that answers my first question. Well, like I said, ill-prepared. But just a question of, how did you get into toys and stuff like that? So it started back with G.I. Joe, the original Real American Hero line back in the day?
That's it. That was, I did all of the typical 80s toy lines, but the one that stuck with me the most and the one that I really, really fell in love with was G.I. Joe.
So, and you really like the classified line and stuff like that? You think they're doing right by Joe with the classified line?
They are now. When it started out, it was really hairy. They were doing some things with the designs that I wasn't feeling at all. It had this kind of like space age.
I was gonna say a little sci-fi feel to it.
Yeah, and I wanted more of the classic stuff. I wanted kind of what they're doing now with the new ones on the card backs.
Yeah.
Looking like the retro product, and that's really what I wanted. And so they're swinging that way more now, which is very nice.
Okay.
So
Yeah. No, I was a fan of classified as well, because I grew up with G.I. Joe as well. Getting hand-me-downs from my brother, like we were talking about earlier, getting some hand-me-downs, and then that, as well as getting Legos and stuff like that. I didn't really have any Star Wars stuff growing up. I did get some of the stuff when Star Wars came back in '97, like just kind of here and there and stuff. And then of course as the prequels started coming out, I kind of got a little toys from that here and there. But I completely forgot where I was going with that one. No, but no, I had the GI Joes as well and stuff like that, and then, but I think Lego was still like the main toy line. Were you into Lego at all growing up?
You know, it's weird that you should ask me that because I was walking through the toy aisle last night and I was thinking to myself, you know, what is it about Lego now that I don't, you know, doesn't do it for me? Because when I was a kid, I really did like Lego.
Yeah.
It was, you know, and but I can honestly say I never built one of the sets. It was always just freeform stuff.
Yeah.
And
But that's the good thing about Lego is it's like you can do that, or you can do anything your imagination wants to do with them.
literally
Literally.
like anything. And so yeah, I don't know. I appreciate it. I can understand why other people like it, and how it might have stuck with them. But for me, it just, you know, it's one of those things that I just don't do now. But,
Okay. For me, Lego, I still like Lego, but definitely over the past few years, a lot of the sets just haven't interested me as much as back in like 2012, around like the 2012, 2015 era. Just because I kind of feel like they're not putting as much effort into some themes as they used to. Like they used to do a lot of DC stuff, now it's mainly just Batman. Or they used to do a lot of Marvel stuff, now it's just Spider-Man. Like they're finding their focused points for a couple things and they're really only sticking to that. And I think that's a little unfair to like, because there are a lot of characters that they still haven't made into Lego form. Like the one that I can think of off the top of my head is a lot of people thought that there was going to be a Dr. Fate set coming out to coincide with is it Black Bolt?
Multiverse of Madness?
Not Multiverse, the one with The Rock. What was...
Black Adam.
Black Adam, that's it. A lot of people thought that there was going to be maybe a set to coincide with that, but Lego just kind of didn't do anything. And the same thing for... Even though Suicide Squad was an R-rated property, and Lego tends to stay away from R-rated properties, like, they still made, like, a Harley Quinn figure based off of Margot Robbie in that direct-to-consumer set from the Lego Movie 2. But there was no minifigures at all for King Shark, for Peacemaker, for anyone like that. Because even though the movie is R-rated, that stuff has been in the comic books since the 80s and stuff like that. So it could have been easier to do just something not directly tied to it, but still make the characters for the fans, young and old, that want them.
I was going to say, sometimes don't they do something like a set adjacent? You know,
yeah.
They don't necessarily do Suicide Squad, but to support that movie, they would put out a set,
yeah,
you know, of the more PG stuff.
No, they do. They definitely do. But I don't know. That's what a lot of fans critique about Lego is they kind of recently they just haven't been trying as many things as they used to do. Like they even to coincide when they put out X-Men Origins Wolverine, they made a set that had Deadpool in it.
Okay.
Like actual, like not the Deadpool from the movie, but the traditional black and red suited Deadpool. Which, of course, now that Deadpool is fully R-rated, they're not going to do any more Deadpool stuff for Lego. At least, yeah, now that he's going to be in the MCU, they might try again with something for Deadpool, but I doubt it.
I can see that. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's... I saw some of the out of all of the sets that I'm aware of, which isn't many, but the one that sparks my imagination out of all of them would be the City set that I saw. Those seem to look the coolest out of all the ones I've seen. I don't know if it's just because, you know, it's not tied to any particular property and you can just kind of go wild with it. But...
No, that is one of the nice things that Lego has kept going is the city and stuff like that. And like, you know, back in the day it used to be like, I think before they even did licensing, you had your like space systems. You had city, which was like police, firefighters, stuff like that. You had like the trains and stuff like that, and then yeah, like the boats and stuff like that. Like it was all essentially, I think, started out as city until about 1999 when they got a hold of Star Wars, and then 2001 when they got a hold of Harry Potter, and it started becoming more about licensed brands.
Right. And I that's really, I think Lego needs to get back to more of that. I really think that
well, I mean, their original lines are doing really well. Like Ninjago is still going, and Monkey Kid, that's still going as well. I haven't watched the show yet from Monkey Kid, but I hear that the animation is phenomenal.
I'm not aware of that. This is the first I'm hearing of it. What's it about?
I haven't watched it, so I don't know.
I mean, do you know the premise or anything?
Not really, no. I just know that the sets look interesting, and they actually, and that's what a lot of fans are liking, is that it's an original. It's not just Star Wars or a superhero. It's an original creation by Lego.
Okay, see, that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
I didn't know, like.
No, it's their full, like Ninjago, Monkey Kid is their full original thing again.
Gotcha. Okay.
What toy line do you think deserves another chance from back in the day?
Off the top of my head, I like skeleton action figures.
Yeah.
There's something about them that I think looks amazing. They take all different forms, whether they're evil or funny looking skeletons. But the long and short of it is, I'd really like to see the Skeleton Warriors line.
Yeah, Skeleton Warriors.
That would just be, if they could do some really hyper detailed, very posable sort of stuff with that. I think that would do very well.
Maybe give them the He-Man Classics treatment and stuff like that. Make them maybe a little bit bigger, a little bit more accessories and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the only unfortunate thing is, since it would be a new thing, they wouldn't be able to do the chrome pieces like they did on the original, which I don't think a lot of them had chrome pieces. Mm-hmm. But I know they definitely had a little smidgen of it.
Definitely, yeah.
But no, I like the Skeleton Warriors. I have a couple figures. That wasn't one of the lines that terribly interested me. Like, I think I got a couple of them. Because I'm not a completionist by any means. I mean, there are some where, like, I just so happened to get the full line or whatever. But if one or two things are out of place, like, for instance, for the Rambo line, all I have is Rambo and Gripper. I don't have the whole line because I don't want the whole line. Not all the characters interest me. So there are ones that I just have like the one figure of for the whole line. But as far as toy lines that deserve another chance, I feel like Centurions could use another go.
I've got good news for you. There's actually a Centurions reboot going.
They're talking about doing. Oh,
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Centurions might be coming back.
Yeah. I think maybe the company is calling it a different name. I'd have to look it up what exactly it is, but I'm sure you can find that information.
Yeah.
But it's it looks pretty cool. The parts are interchangeable, and you can still swap stuff.
That's another thing for modability and stuff like that. That's what Centurions was trying to be all about, And
now that they got 3D printing and stuff, people can have their own stuff.
Oh yeah. No, totally.
Yeah.
I've seen some people do some crazy stuff with 3D printing. I'm part of a muscle group on Facebook, and people have just started designing their own muscle figures and stuff like that, like different versions of all the characters. And
can they come with that same texture?
I think they actually, not quite that same hard rubber material, but there are definitely 3D printed filaments that have some give to them.
Right.
Have a little bit of give, but it's not quite the same as the original. Which, I mean, not to say that, because like the original muscle figures, they were that hard rubber, but then when they started redoing the colors, then they became sort of a firmer plastic. So the 3D printer is more akin to the firmer plastic version of the muscle figures.
Gotcha.
And that's actually one thing that I had a lot of muscle figures for a little bit, and then I recently, just a couple years ago, trimmed down that collection to just the ones that I really, really wanted. Like, I don't know how familiar you are with the Muscle.
Very. I had quite a few of them. They're super addictive. I remember when I was a kid, you know, we get the little packages of what, 3 or 5.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was, but excuse me. We would get home and you'd open the package, you know, and you'd check out whatever ones it was that you got, and immediately you're thinking, oh well, look, I want, you know, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
It's that gotta have them all.
Sort of the same thing like like Battle Beasts and stuff like that
yeah,
too.
Yeah, absolutely. Love those things. And anything you can do a little color changing gimmick, or you gotta find out what faction it is. I'm sold.
Because like,
sign me up.
And that's another thing too. Like, what would be your favorite gimmick? What's your favorite gimmicky thing that an '80s action figure had? Because I mean, you know, you had the glow in the dark, you had color changing, you had holograms, you had the spring-loaded stuff, you had the blast apart, you had battle damage. I mean, the list goes on for gimmicks for action figures.
Yeah.
You had just taking the same figure and recasting the whole mold just in a chrome silver,
I
chrome
was just
gold.
gonna say the chrome and gold variants. Yeah.
So what might your favorite gimmick be?
Oh, that's tough. I would probably have to go with the battle damage. I would say that the variant of a figure that I already have that looks like it's messed up or scuffed. Oh, the Hot Wheels smash ups.
The crack ups.
Oh man, I love those things. Those were like the best.
I got a couple of those in my collection. Yeah, no, those are great.
I would go outside and I would take rocks and I would smash up my Hot Wheels just so I would have. And then when they finally came out with one that actually did that, you know, you could fix it back to normal. Oh, I was in heaven. That was it.
Did you ever have the Crash Test Dummies toys?
I wanted them.
Speaking of battle, purposely battle damage.
I wanted them. I thought they were super cool. You know, I never, I didn't. No, I think my little brother may have had one or two, but personally, myself, no, I would love to.
So I have all of Tycho's Crash Test Dummy figures, and I have one or two of I think I have the motorcycle in the red car. Yeah. I like the red car because I used to drive a 2001 Pontiac Sunfire, and the red one reminded me of my own car and stuff like that. But they are fun figures, but to find one now that isn't like the internal mechanisms of like the shoulders and the hips and the neck, to find one that isn't like that actually you could put the pieces in and they'll stay together, that's become a bit of a chore. Just because I mean they're toys that, you know, God forbid a toy gets played with and stuff like that.
Especially one like that.
Yeah, but like, you know, kids are smashing them, throwing them, breaking them, and stuff like that. But like they only have these little inward pins that are like, essentially just little needles that hold the limbs in place and stuff like that. So I had one, and I thought I had broken it because I tried to mess with it and put the head in the shoulder, but then I thought I broke, but then thankfully enough it didn't break. So I'm like, I'm just gonna put you back together, and I'm not gonna mess with you anymore. But for gimmicks, my favorite is glow in the dark.
Yeah.
I love glow in the dark, with a close second being having a character be fully translucent, or just a little bit translucent. Like, I guess a figure that fits both that criteria is, I think it was the Kenner Dr. Phosphorus figure from Batman Beyond. He has a green translucent body with a rib cage, spine, and skull that are glow in the dark on the inside.
I've not seen this one.
No, he's a really good figure. And they even did a version of him for, I think it was Burger King, that he had a little bit of translucentness, not glow in the dark, but you could press a button and his chest and head would light up green.
Okay.
Again, back when Burger King and McDonald's actually gave out good toys. But no, I love glow in the dark. whether it be like the weapons from Supernaturals or just a full figure like Scareglow. Probably the most famous one, Scareglow from He-Man. Just a full glow in the dark figure. And even Lego has their glow in the dark pieces too, with the the classic Castle Ghost is glow in the dark, to just little pieces and stuff.
I had no idea.
Like with the new Avatar Lego sets,
Mhm.
they have little glow in the dark pieces to simulate being on Pandora, because like a lot of the environment looks day glow and stuff like that. So they incorporate that into the Lego sets by actually having little glow in the dark Lego pieces.
That's really cool. That's really cool. What would you say are your top 3 examples of favorite glow in the dark figures?
Top 3 glow in the dark. I guess in no particular order, because it'd just be too hard to pick a number 1, 2, and 3.
Sure.
Off the top of my head, Night Force RoboCop or Night Fighter RoboCop.
Okay.
From Kenner.
Okay.
Probably the Ecto Glow Kenner Real Ghostbusters figures.
Those
Right
are
when
really cool.
right when the line was dying, they decided to do those. So those are super rare. I don't have any of those in my collection, but I definitely, if I were to get one, it would be the Peter Venkman, the glow in the dark Real Ghostbusters Ecto Glow Peter Venkman, and then
Is that the one where they had splatters of?
no,
Or no?
no, that one is the what was that one called? Because that one was coincided with Ghostbusters 2, and I think those ones were just called Slimed Heroes and stuff like that, because it was color changing. You had ghosts that could squirt water out of their mouths, and the hot and cold would change the slime on the outfits. I think G.I. Joe did that too,
Right.
with the Eco Force figures. But then number 3 for a glow in the dark figure would be, keeping it going with just Kenner stuff. The Endo Glow Terminator from the Terminator 2 Judgment Day line.
Awesome. Those things are great.
Like that, it seems like that one was all about gimmicks and stuff, because you had the T1000 that had the blast apart feature. You had another T1000 that was color changing, the white hot T1000, where you could dip him in hot and cold water and his body would either go translucent or a solid color. And then you had the Terminator figures with interchangeable limbs, where you could have battle damage parts go on them as well. You had the Techno Punch or whatever for all the endoskeletons, harkening back to the days of He-Man and stuff like that. And then of course you had your glow in the dark one too, so you check all the boxes of gimmicks. The only one you didn't have was some sort of holographic capability, like Supernaturals or what's the other line that had holograms in it? Was that it was by Hasbro. They were a little bit bigger than G.I. Joe's. Visionaries.
That's right.
I got a few Visionary figures too. Those ones are really sick.
Those are really cool. I really like the Visionaries. That was another. My cousin had them. So when you're talking to me about toys, you're always gonna hear me talking about my cousin had them. My cousin was an only child who basically had every toy that I wanted. But yeah, he had some of those, and they were awesome.
No, they're a lot, and that's another thing that could probably use a proper comeback is Visionaries, because they've talked. The license for Visionaries was scooped up along with like Rom the Space Knight and a Mask and all those by Hasbro, and I think they put out a special pack that had some of the heavy hitters from each of those lines, which included one of the characters from Visionaries minus the actual holographic feature. And I think that was a convention exclusive pack that Hasbro put out.
Was this the one right about the time when they were trying to do the comic book where they're having all the worlds of the Hasbro products? I remember that.
That's right, yeah. Because I think Dan from Toy Galaxy, he's covered a lot of those videos of specifically Visionaries and Rom the Space Knight and stuff like that. That's another one. I couldn't get into Rom.
No.
Like, I can appreciate it. I like the way it looks, but and that's the thing. Just like, not everything's gonna be for everybody
Sure.
and stuff.
Oh yeah, I've got some geek things that I don't want to admit that I'm sure that like, for example, I'm not a huge fan of Lord of the Rings. Like, it's just not my thing. I don't, but I think maybe everybody's got stuff like that too. So
That's another really good glow in the dark figure, the Twilight Ring Wraith figure. The Witch King, not the Undead King from the third movie. That's another really solid glow in the dark figure. It holds its glow really well. All right, so anything else you want to say before we cut it off? Drop your handle there again so people know where to find you.
It's _drastic plastic _ on Instagram, and I do action figure photography.
Just some good stuff.
Yeah, if you want to come check out my customs or my action figure photography, please do.
And I'll put his right here. I'll put it right between my hands right here. I'll put I won't put a link, but I'll put words right here that you can find it.
Right there.
Yeah, right about here. Well, thanks for joining me for Toy Talk.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
No problem.